Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining this course titled The Effects of Climate Change on Human Psychology. This course is part of the NOW project, funded through the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. The project brings together partner countries including North Macedonia, Spain, Finland, Poland, and Turkey to promote environmental awareness, social inclusion, and educational innovation. The purpose of this course is to explore how climate change affects our emotions and mental health. As climate events grow more visible and intense, it's crucial to understand how they impact us psychologically. This course will help you recognize emotional responses to climate change, understand mental health impacts of environmental disruption, build self-care and resilience strategies, design personal and collective actions for change. This is a reflective, supportive space. You're encouraged to share, learn from one another, and connect your inner world to the broader climate reality we all face. In this slide, we highlight the 5 key learning goals of the course. Understand emotional responses to climate change. We will explore feelings like eco-anxiety, grief, and solastalgia, helping participants name and process their emotions in healthy ways. Explore mental health impacts of environmental disruption. This includes examining how climate disasters, displacement, and uncertainty affect the psychological well-being of individuals and communities. Learn self-care and resilience strategies. We will offer practical techniques for emotional resilience, including mindfulness, nature connection, peer support, and personal grounding exercises. Practice empathy-based communication. Participants will develop communication skills that are emotionally intelligent and rooted in empathy, which are vital when engaging others on difficult climate topics. Design personal and community-based responses. The course will guide learners to turn emotional insight into concrete actions, empowering them to design responses that are both personally meaningful and socially impactful. Welcome to Module 1, an introduction to climate psychology. Climate psychology is the study of how people emotionally and mentally respond to climate change. It helps us understand why we sometimes avoid, deny, or disengage from the issue even when we care deeply. These reactions aren't about apathy. They're often about fear, overwhelm, or a sense of powerlessness. We shut down not because we don't feel, but because we feel too much. In this module, we begin with awareness. How does climate change make you feel? What comes up? Anxiety, grief, frustration, numbness. It helps us understand why people sometimes turn away from the problem, through denial, avoidance, or emotional numbness, even when they know the science is real. These reactions are not signs of indifference, they're often signs of being overwhelmed, afraid, or uncertain about what to do. By understanding these patterns, we can respond more compassionately to ourselves and to others, and learn how to stay engaged without burning out. This is where our journey begins, not just with knowledge, but with emotional awareness, resilience, and connection. These feelings are important. They're part of the human experience. And if we can name them, we can begin to work with them, not against them. So take a breath. This course will guide you gently through understanding your own climate emotions and building the resilience to stay engaged. Reflective journal activity. This is your first reflective activity, a chance to explore your own emotional response to climate change. Take a moment to think about a recent news story, documentary, or event that touched you. Did it leave you feeling anxious? Angry? Grief-stricken? Or maybe numb or overwhelmed? Now, write about it. Just one paragraph is enough. Describe what you saw or heard. And then describe how it made you feel, in your body, your mind, your mood. There's no judgment here. This is your space to process. And if you feel comfortable, you can share your reflection in our learning group or online forum to support one another and feel less alone in these emotions. So, let's take a moment to pause and reflect. Think back to a recent climate-related event. Maybe it was something you saw on the news, a wildfire, a flood, or a protest. What did it stir in you? Was it anxiety? Sadness? Anger? Or maybe a sense of helplessness? Try to put those emotions into words. Don't worry about grammar or structure, just be honest. Your reflection is private unless you choose to share. If you'd like, you can post your thoughts in the course forum or your learning group. Often, just knowing that others feel the same way can be a powerful source of connection and support. Take your time. And remember, there are no wrong feelings here. Let's take a moment to listen to real emotions, real people, and their responses to climate change. 1. A 17-year-old student says, "Seeing the wildfires in Canada this summer really scared me. The skies turned orange in New York, and it felt like something out of a movie. I felt anxious and kind of numb. None of my friends really talked about it, which made me feel alone. I wanted to do something, post, share, protest, but I didn't know if it would help. I ended up drawing to process how overwhelmed I felt." 2. A middle school teacher shares. During a class discussion on extreme weather, a student asked, "Are we all going to die from climate change?" That moment shook me. I realized that students aren't just learning facts, they're feeling fear. I felt overwhelmed and underprepared. It made me rethink how I teach the topic. I started looking into ways to focus more on hope and action instead of just statistics and doom. 3. A parent of young children reflects. Watching news coverage about rising sea levels made me think about what kind of world my kids will grow up in. I felt a knot in my stomach, part guilt, part fear. I started wondering if I should move somewhere safer. But then I remembered that climate change is everywhere. It made me want to learn more, so I can at least help my children understand what's happening. 4. And a climate activist confesses. When I saw the oil spill in the Mediterranean, I felt deep anger. It wasn't just about the environment, it was about injustice. Local fishers lost everything, and the company got a fine and moved on. I felt burned out too, like nothing I do is ever enough. I ended up joining a climate grief circle online, and just talking to others helped me stay grounded. Each of these voices reminds us. Climate change is not just an environmental issue, it's an emotional one. And your story, your feelings, your voice, they matter too. Welcome to Module 2, Emotional Responses to Climate Change. In the last module, we explored how climate psychology helps us understand the mental and emotional dimensions of environmental change. Now, we're diving deeper into the emotions themselves. When we hear about rising sea levels, wildfires, or biodiversity loss, we don't just understand it intellectually. We feel it. And those feelings can be intense. This module introduces terms like eco-anxiety, the chronic worry about the planet's future. Climate grief, the sorrow we feel for what's already been lost. And solastalgia, the distress of seeing our home environment change. These emotional responses are not weaknesses. They're signs that we care, that we're connected. Recognizing and naming these feelings is the first step toward managing them and transforming them into strength, action, and empathy. This activity that we will work on in this module is called emotion mapping, and it's a chance to pause, look inward, and name what you're feeling. Start by thinking about a recent moment when climate change triggered an emotional response in you. Maybe you read an article, saw a video, or had a conversation that stuck with you. What emotion came up? Was it fear? Guilt? Anger? Sadness? Or something harder to name? In the worksheet, you'll write down one emotion and describe the situation where it appeared. That's it, no judgment, no overthinking. Just honesty. Later, if you feel comfortable, we'll come together in a short group discussion. How do we cope with these emotions? How do we move forward without shutting down? This is one of the most important steps in emotional resilience, recognizing what we feel, so we can learn how to support ourselves and others. Here's an example of an emotion mapping reflection. Emotion chosen here is anxiety. We begin with the situation. Last month, I watched a documentary about melting glaciers in Greenland. The visuals were powerful, huge chunks of ice crashing into the ocean. I felt a tightness in my chest and couldn't stop thinking about sea level rise. I imagined cities underwater, including my own hometown. That night, I couldn't sleep. The anxiety lingered for days, especially when more climate news came through my feed. The reflected coping response from this situation. I talked to a friend, and just hearing that I wasn't alone really helped. I also found a podcast that focused on climate solutions, not just problems. That gave me a bit of hope and helped shift my focus from fear to action. This kind of emotional journaling helps us move from reactive fear to empowered response. Module 3 introduces the mental health impacts of climate change, a crucial but often overlooked part of the conversation. As the climate crisis intensifies, it's not only ecosystems that are affected, but also our psychological well-being. Key points to remember. Trauma can occur after natural disasters like hurricanes, wildfires, or floods, especially if someone loses their home or community. Displacement leads to grief, instability, and identity disruption, particularly when tied to losing a familiar place. Uncertainty and chronic exposure to climate news can create anticipatory stress and persistent anxiety. This module will help you understand that climate emotions aren't just valid, they're expected. This sets the stage for resilience building and support strategies in the next module. Climate change doesn't just harm the planet, it affects our mental health too. Extreme weather events, like floods, fires, and droughts, can leave people traumatized. Imagine losing your home, your school, or your sense of safety overnight. That's not just a physical loss, it's a psychological one. Displacement causes grief, anxiety, and a loss of belonging. And even without direct experience, just seeing climate destruction in the news can lead to emotional exhaustion, fear, or numbness. Some groups are more vulnerable than others. Children who are still developing emotionally. Elderly people, who may already be facing isolation or health issues. And marginalized communities, who often lack access to mental health care and face greater climate risks. Understanding these impacts is essential. Because caring for mental health is part of caring for the Earth and for each other. The activities in Module 3 will allow you to step into the shoes and hearts of those directly affected by climate disasters. First, watch a short testimony from a climate survivor. Listen not just to what happened, but how it made them feel. Was there fear? Trauma? Guilt? Anger? Numbness? After the video, list 3 emotional or psychological effects the person described. This helps us recognize the real human cost of climate events. Then, take action. Create a mental health resource map for your own community. List local hotlines, support groups, or online services that could help someone coping with emotional distress after a disaster. You don't need to be a psychologist to make a difference. Sometimes just knowing where to turn can change a life. These videos bring you face to face with the emotional reality of climate change. The stories are real human stories behind climate headlines. Ripple effect, trauma in the wake of climate change. This documentary explores the long-term psychological impact of floods in South Louisiana, and how trauma quietly lingers long after the water recedes. Watch on PBS. Climate and Culture, Stories of Survival, Resilience, and Renewal. This powerful film shows how communities around the world are transforming loss into renewal, highlighting cultural identity and human strength. Watch it on YouTube. Surviving Infernos and Floods, Life on the Frontline of the Climate Crisis. Hear from people who've lived through extreme wildfires and floods. These aren't just statistics, they're personal stories of loss, fear, survival, and adaptation. Also available on YouTube. Choose one that speaks to you. As you watch, listen not only to what happened, but how it felt. This is climate change, not in charts, but in voices and hearts. These stories are powerful tools to help learners connect emotionally and empathetically, and good lead into the mapping activity. The Mental Health Resource Map is a way to visualize support systems in a local or digital community. Here is a sample of Mental Health Resource Map, and it's something you can build for your school, your community, or even your family. When a climate event or emotional crisis happens, knowing where to turn makes all the difference. Start simple. Include resources like a local crisis counseling center, a peer support group or school psychologist, a national mental health helpline, even online therapy platforms or support communities on Zoom. You can build this visually with Canva, Google Maps, or just a sketch on paper. The important part is knowing that support exists and making it easier for others to find it too. Because emotional preparedness is climate preparedness. Module 4 shifts from emotional awareness to emotional strength. After exploring heavy topics like climate grief and anxiety, this module provides a hopeful, practical toolkit. So welcome to Module 4, where we move from emotion to strength. So far, we've explored how climate change can make us feel anxious, overwhelmed, or even heartbroken. Now, we ask, how do we stay emotionally engaged without being consumed by fear or despair? The answer is psychological resilience. Resilience doesn't mean avoiding emotions. It means learning to live with them, to feel deeply and still move forward. In this module, you'll explore 3 core strategies for building resilience. Mindfulness, simple practices like deep breathing or meditation help calm the mind and body. Connection to nature, even short, quiet moments in nature can restore our sense of balance. Community support, whether it's a friend, a circle, or a classroom, sharing the emotional load helps us carry it longer. Resilience is a skill, one you can practice, strengthen, and share with others. This module is about replenishing your emotional energy, so that you don't just care about the planet, you care for yourself, too. Now think, what already helps you feel stronger during difficult times? Let's take a moment to breathe, to pause, and to ground ourselves. You're invited now to close your eyes or soften your gaze and listen to a short meditation called Grounding in a Warming World. Feel your feet on the floor, your breath moving in and out. Imagine the earth beneath you as solid, steady, holding you. Even in a changing world, you are grounded. Now, let's shift to your resilience toolkit. This is your personal space to write down what helps you cope, what brings you back to center. Start with a calming activity like walking, music, drawing. A support person, someone who listens and cares. A grounding technique like breathing, stretching, or nature time. These tools are small but powerful. They don't solve climate change, but they help you stay present, steady, and ready to act. Take your time. Your resilience matters. Let's bring everything together now: reflection, restoration, and readiness. Begin by finding a quiet space. Take 5 minutes for a guided meditation called Grounding in a Warming World. You can use Insight Timer, Calm, or YouTube, or just sit quietly, breathing deeply. Once you feel centered, open your resilience toolkit. Write down 3 things. A calming activity that works for you, maybe drawing, walking, or listening to rain sounds. A support person, someone who listens without judgment, like a friend, teacher, or family member. A grounding technique, like the 5-4-3-2-1 method. Notice 5 things you can see. 4 you can touch. 3 you can hear. 2 you can smell. And 1 you can taste. These tools are yours to return to anytime the world feels too heavy. Your emotional strength is part of your climate strength. Let's review the key activities and assignments from the course. Throughout the modules, you've been invited to reflect, explore, and express. Here's a quick summary. Reflective journal, capturing your emotional reactions to climate news or events. Emotion mapping worksheet, identifying your emotions and the situations behind them. Video reflection, observing emotional impacts in survivor stories and linking them to mental health themes. Resilience toolkit, building a personal guide for coping with climate emotions. And finally, your final project. This can take many forms. A personal essay. A group discussion summary. A visual poster. Even a short audio or video response. What matters most is that it connects your emotional insight with a vision for action, understanding, or support. This is your chance to turn reflection into resilience. This course invites deep reflection, and that means protecting your emotional well-being is just as important as completing the content. Here are some gentle reminders. Take breaks when needed. If something feels heavy, step away. Breathe. Return when you're ready. Only share what feels safe. You are never required to share more than you're comfortable with. Your story is yours to hold. Support others in discussions. Listen with empathy. Be present. A single kind response can mean everything to someone opening up. Reflect regularly, whether through journaling or quiet time. Make space to check in with yourself. This is emotional work, and that means it deserves care. You don't have to carry it all alone, and you don't have to rush. Learning, healing, and resilience take time. Thank you for being here, truly. This course wasn't just about climate change. It was about how it feels to live in a warming world. It was about your emotions, your resilience, your voice. You've reflected. You've listened. You've faced difficult truths and explored tools to stay strong through them. If you remember one thing from this journey, let it be this. Your feelings are valid. Your care is a strength. And you are not alone. Whether you're a teacher, student, activist, or simply someone who cares, your mental well-being matters in this work. So keep journaling. Keep breathing. Keep connecting. Because climate action begins within. With compassion, with awareness, and with you. Thank you, and take good care.